So again, like I know the last 36 hours or maybe more, I mean, like we have been overdosed with talking about AI security, what's happening and the privacy and the bias and all those things, right? So what I'm going to be talking about is nothing unusual. It's something that most of the presenters, co-presenters have talked about. Uh, so the topic for the last presentation is strategies for securing AI implementation against emergent threats, right? So
So I'm going to hand you. Can I hand you handheld? Yeah, we got this.
So sorry about that, the technical difficulty. So we're going to be focusing on defending AI models, right? So, and again, like looking at the landscape for AI itself, right? There are two specific use cases. As an individual, your interaction with like the chatbots and ChatGPT and other stuff, right? And the other aspect is bringing in AI models into your application infrastructure itself. How do you actually secure the models? How do you actually bring security into the mix? So before I start, I do want to actually give a round of applause to specifically to Rob and Kate itself to actually put this amazing summit together. Personally, I learned a lot through all different sessions that have happened, right? And thanks for everybody who's attending the session, both in person as well as virtual. For this particular present, again, like everybody else, have referenced a lot of materials, whether it's through SANS, OWASP, and the internet, and also like ChatGPT, to be brutally honest, right? So sincere thanks to all the sources. Uh, so before delving into this one, I want to actually talk a little bit about myself. So again, I started my career being like a developer, but over the years I've gone through different areas within technology, whether it's uh, doing development, QA, system engineering, compliance, audit. I've done like pre-sales, security, and now AI is the focus area, right? But one of the things that stood with me is, I mean, like you can not know everything on individually, right? You actually have to come as a community and learn together. So there are a lot of communities that I'm part of, including OWASP. Uh, I'm equally passionate about go-to-market strategy. I'm invested in a bunch of different companies, different startups. I truly believe in community and community building itself. I was a co-author for a particular book that was released last year. But two other areas that I want to focus on is I'm extremely passionate about the nonprofits and the education. And also within the community itself, I make it a point to educate masses about the risks that we live with connected world, right? And I've been on panels with the US Secret Service, with FBI folks. And one thing that I remember, I was on a panel, I think like 2 years ago. One of the US Secret Service talked about a lady who actually lost almost like $1.5 million, which was almost her life savings because she was made to believe that somebody on the other side was his son and he was asking for her money, right? So she made almost like 20, 25 different transactions and lost almost like $1.5 million. So I think it becomes important to talk about the risk, not just for the enterprises that we secure, but at the society at large. So I'm also like part of this community called InfraGuard, which is a collaboration between FBI and private and public sector. And again, like my introduction will not be complete without talking about OWASP and me, right? So I'm associated with OWASP again at different levels, and I'm part of different projects, whether it's around the AI exchange that Rob introduced earlier in the day. I'm also a lead for the AI bomb, which ML bomb or something, which is an extension of SBOM. Uh, Top 10 LLM top 10s. I'm like responsible for the supply chain. I author that specific section, also looking after the serverless top 10. And what really happened was, like everybody else, my journey in AI really started with when ChatGPT came about in 2022. And I was using ChatGPT for writing emails, writing content itself, right? But sometime in 2023, I was like, I'm using it, but I really don't understand what's happening behind the scenes, right? So if you're trying to secure something, you should know what's happening behind the scenes, right? So 2023, end of 2023, Rob came about saying he's starting a particular project called AI Exchange, which is going to connect all the dots together, right? And before that, I was running like a research group, which is talking about AI talking about the policies, what's happening at the geopolitical level, right? So I think it was a natural thing for me to join forces, get connected with the AI exchange uh, folks that were doing some amazing work, right? So again, like AI adoption, we don't have to go through this particular one. I mean, like everything else is about crawl, walk, and run. So I think based on the last couple of years, we are definitely walked away from the walk and the crawl phase itself. I mean, like many organizations are in the run phase, right? Looking at adopting models within their application infrastructure, doing it at scale. And some of the use cases impacted by Gen AI, this is something from Gartner. I mean, like the content creation, conversational AIs, AI simulation, there are like a bunch of different use cases that are being talked about, right? And this is something that has happened in the last, I would say like 2 years, 2.5 years itself. And these are like something, there's a reference site called like Solulab, which is talking about the Gen AI use case for 2025, right? The top ones. And you can actually kind of relate to this. Like healthcare is looking at AI, finance and trading. And I have like a rich background in finance itself, so I already see like this coming in a big way. The content creation, which is already happening, it's going to continue to grow. And these are the use cases that I personally know of, right? Whether it's working through my clients or companies that I invest in, is it started with writing emails, creating images, but if an advanced learning, empowering the students. But I think if you look at the enterprise level, these are like some of the other use cases that I see, right? Empowering business users. And I think it's a public domain knowledge that Goldman Sachs requires all their managing directors on the business side to know how to code in Python, for example, right? Or if you think you want to create like a particular report based on your data, this could be another use case for the business user, right? To be very self-empowered. It's happening in the research side, AI SOC, replacing your level 1 SOC through some of these solutions that are coming to the market, incorporating ML and AI in e-trading platforms, code generation. I would say like pretty much everybody on the floor would agree the code generation is happening at scale right now. Parsing lengthy legal documents. I mean, like everybody has gone through getting Apple and Samsung and other phones itself, right? You have like 10 pages of legal documents that you have to parse through, right? So that's an interesting use case. And again, like the last one that I talked about for the wealth management, there is one of the largest banks in Wall Street, and I'm not sure if it's a public domain knowledge, otherwise I would have shared the name, had almost like 250 people replaced by AI to do like investment advice, right? So it's happening at scale, and these use cases are improving or increasing by the day. So again, like it's important to talk about, yes, all the good stuff, but also like we should be cognizant of the fact about the risk of adopting AI. Again, groundbreaking technologies or innovation that happened, whether it's the industrial revolution, cars, internet, I mean, like it definitely transformed the world, and AI will too, right? But we need to actually take into account the risks involved in that. So again, for the past 2 days, we have been talking about different aspects, and these are like some of the things that I captured specifically for one of the statements that came from Rob in the morning was we got AI as an intern in 2022, and AI has taken over as a CEO. Richard talked about cross-section of AI and OT. It's happening. Casey from SurePath AI, which was one of the vendors here, talked about identity-based protection for using AI, human element in AI. Landy did like a phenomenal presentation yesterday. And both the keynotes from Sunil and Helen were to the point itself, right? And a dear friend of mine, Owen Wickens from Hidden Layer itself, did like a phenomenal job talking about watching the watchers. Chris talked about developing unsecure application in minutes, right? So this is like a statement from SEC head, which talks about financial crash caused by AI is unavoidable. And having been in the financial industry, then the market crash that happened in 2028, which brought down the market by 9%, which is significant, which they had to stop the trading for almost a day. I think it might happen, right? This is my prediction, it's not me speaking, it's Gary who's the SEC head, right? With more and more models which are getting adopted in trading strategies and stuff, right? If you have one particular issue that happened in a fundamental model, for example, which is being used across the street, right? it can have like a big impact. And if you don't have the safeguards, I mean, it goes uncontrollably. So modern threats are not armed, right? They're automated. And this is like a real thing, and I'm pretty sure like some of you have seen this one, right? There's a cloak that was created in China itself, which actually makes people invisible to AI security cameras. Some of the gaps, this is something that came from IBM back in 2022, which is talking about there are like significant gaps in different areas, right? Around the bias, around prompt injection attacks and all those things, right? None of this has fully been addressed itself. And we as security professionals need to ensure like we are moving the needle every leg of the way. The growing threat landscape in AI, again, examples that we have all heard about or we know from model extraction, data poisoning, adversarial inputs, prompt injection. I think the point here is like increased adoption of AI means you have increased attack surface, right? And again, this is more of a projection of like, okay, we know stuff, but I think the hackers know more than us, right? So we need to be top of our game and understand like from different sides, right? Thinking of as an hacker. And the information that you have, the same information is available for the hackers also, right? So we need to be one up the hackers all the time. And this is a real thing that happened just by a simple AI-generated voice recording. Hackers were actually able to hack into a bank account using that specific attack. So personally, coming from a development and AppSec background itself, I think like securing AI is like SDLC or AppSec 2.0. And some of the principles for securing your application is something that you can adopt within securing AI. Like, I think the biggest question is, why are we using AI? We should ask that specific question. Who are your stakeholders? Why are you using, right? You should absolutely do like threat modeling for your application where AI is being used. Discovering shadow AI, similar to like shadow IT, is equally important. Pen testing, deployment, code signing, risk prioritization, integrated development environment, all this are important, right? And I think we repeatedly heard about how important like monitoring is, how important like the governance itself is, right? So I think all those principles that we have lived through our lives for the last 20, 25 years itself, right? We need to actually incorporate those things. It's nothing new. And in fact, one of my dear friends, he's like a CISO for a very large healthcare institution. Two years ago, I was talking about exactly the same thing. And he said like, securing AI is no different than what we have been doing, right? It's just like a different layer or a different cover that we have to put on this, right? And we need to continuously iterate on this. So this is where like the bodies like NIST, MITRE, CSA, OWASP come in, right? And I'm specifically going to focus on where AI exchange is focused on, right? And what positioning that we have. I'm not going to through all of these ones, but I think like the mission for AI Exchange is specifically to be a book, like the top bookmark for professional and organizations seeking trusted, clear, and practical insights in AI security. And there are other projects in the industry, whether it's part of like OWASP or CSA or ISAC or other stuff, right? It's happening. But as like a single vision that even Rob was talking about is we need to actually come together. And I think the alignment that Rob was also talking about is bringing the collaboration between SANS and OWASP AI Exchange becomes important. So anything that we are producing as part of AI Exchange is under like Commons Creative License, which means like anybody across the globe can actually use the material and it's free of copyright and attribution. And the audience was predominantly, it's across the street, right? I mean, like it can be used by security professionals, developers, scholars, legal professionals, compliance officers. Rob already talked about this one. We have like many experts across the globe who are actually contributing to this one. We have contributed towards AI Act. It's going into ISO 27090 itself. Many things are happening, and we have over like 200 pages of material available at that website called owaspai.org. So I encourage everybody to actually look at this one, the great work that's happening in that specific space. I'm going to skip over this one. So these are like number of contributors, number of companies which are behind this one. number of users on Slack and LinkedIn follows, right? And these are like some of the ecosystem and the standard bodies that we are linked with, right? ISO, NIST, MITRE, Sensenelic. So there is a collaboration that's happening with Cloud Security Alliance, and once the MOU is signed with SANS itself, right, there's going to be more collaboration that's happening. So within OWASP AI Exchange, we basically look at the threats and categorize it into three different areas, right? During development, once we are like training the model itself, at runtime, basically when you are using a particular application or a chatbot, the input and the output layer becomes important. So that's the second category, and third category is around the usage itself. And these are some of the stuff. I'm not going to read through this. This is something that you can actually see on the website directly. There are two ways of looking at this AI security. There is a AI security matrix that have been developed, and also there is a threats and a control navigator. Like for all the threats, there are like control that have already been developed, and the effort on this is continues. And I think we kind of touched upon this in many presentations. I'm not going to focus on this one. So key defenses, I think like everything else, there are like three categories of doing that, like the preventative defenses, detective, and protective defenses. It's all right. Let me go. So I think one of the one specific area that is very close to my heart specifically is the AI governance, like really defining why you're using AI into your applications in your business environment itself, right? And really understand what are the risks involved, how do you actually bring threat intel into the mix. I think there is a growing interest in talking about the bill of material, like software bill of material. There is a concept called like AI bombs. So I think like having a full scope of what's happening, what needs to be done, what's happening when there is a 0-day happens, right? You should be actually able to actually say, okay, this is what my exposure points are. This is something that I need to do. So some of the best practices, I think like from a layered security perspective, like anything else that's happening in organization, layered security is going to be important. Staying updated on new attack vectors is going to be important. Strong collaboration between AI security teams within the organization, in your respective organization, is important. Reliable and real-time AI inventory becomes important. That's where your AI governance and GRC stuff that's happening in organization becomes important. One thing that I know, once you're bringing in models into your organization, you should actually do test against those, test against vulnerabilities, whether it's through red teaming or pen testing or a few other stuff, right? Threat modeling against your AI-based applications becomes equally important. And again, with the growing interest around the regulation stuff, I think you have to be on top of the regulation itself. Finding friends within the internal and the external audit becomes equally important. So I know I only have like 10 seconds left, but these are like some of the key references that we have touched upon or like used. So some of the takeaways to wrap this talk is like, understand your organization role in AI ecosystem, manage inventory of systems, data models, implementing strong access control, increase the awareness within your respective organization, prioritize the risk and resolve them by priority, and also focusing on the public sector, public and private sector collaboration. So I think as security professionals, we need to identify and mitigate the security risks that we have on our hand. I'm not, if people have phones, you can actually use this. Just going to keep it for like maybe 5 seconds. Okay. Anyway, like people who didn't actually scan this one, this is actually going to a spoofing site, right? So this is the actual one. So I think for the last 2 slides, the important factor or the important point is trust but verify, right? And I think we have, as security professionals, we all always talked about like trust but verify, whether it's around zero trust or anything else, right? We need to actually focus on this one more and more. So if you want to actually collaborate with AI Exchange, there is a Slack channel within the OWASP Slack community. You can actually follow us on LinkedIn, and there are like few key achievements that Rob touched about in the morning. So I'm not going to read through this one. You can follow us on LinkedIn. We have like bi-weekly meetings that happen, and those are also published to YouTube, so you can actually review those things. So thank you for your attention, and we can go to Q&A.